4 days of the Change Management Practitioner course. But what we're going to do is quickly go around the room and say what you got out of it. Was it a good course? Was it something that you would recommend to others? We're thinking about those of a reflective nature who like to reflect on others' experiences. So now's your chance to have a say. So anybody want to start me off with something that they found useful, that they got out of it? Thank you, Mike. Over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Mel. Yeah, I found it very useful. I think in large part it allowed me to put names to sort of phenomenon that you see all the time in your roles, but you don't necessarily know what the relationship between those is, or how to, if it's a negative thing, stop them from happening, or how to influence them in a positive way. So yeah, having that theory behind it, I think is going to be very useful for applying in my job.
Thank you. I think this is why the course works for somebody who's entry level, but also somebody who's very experienced, because we might have been doing it a lot of the time, but we don't always recognize the models that we've been using. And this course sort of brings you back up to that. That's really helpful. Thank you for that. What about you, Pat?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm very bad at being able to remember the specifics of the models and the kind of, the ontology, if you like, because those models form an ontology in the subject of change management. And so, I'm finding they must have stuck to some extent because, they were tested in the exam. So it's it's good.
Well, this is a great that passed the exam with flying colours, so I think it's definitely stuck. Yeah, excellent. What about you, Matt?
I was thinking there was a lot of quite practical little vignettes and stories that you told at different times. And what that's helped me do is I've got obviously a bit of a plan for some of the stuff I'm doing in my role at the moment. And I've been adding in little bits here and there of, I've gone to a plan for a workshop we're running in about 3 weeks and gone, no, we don't need to do that. We need to do it like this. We need to put this model in here and co-create it this way.
Excellent. I love it that you're practically applying what we're doing. I love that. Thank you very much. And what about you then, Rhys?
Yeah, for someone who was quite new to business change, I thought it was real good to get this sort of grained in and learn from the start. I also liked how you've linked a lot of the topics together throughout with real life examples. And definitely, as just said then, I'm already thinking about how I can use some of this in my day-to-day job.
Yeah, I think it is the examples give you that sort of colour, this extra depth, and it gives us an opportunity as well. I can point out when it works, why you might want to use it in those circumstances, but also when it doesn't work, why you wouldn't want to use it. So that just gives you some guardrails for when you're applying these things in your own practice as well. So yeah, that's excellent. And as I said, I think there is that, we've had that range with Pat, who's obviously very experienced in change, and then there's you're taking on that role for the first time. And I do passionately believe the course works very well for both, because if you're entry level, you're going, oh, these are all the things, this is my toolkit. But if you're very experienced, it's just a reminder, I do these things, but now I know why it works, or oh, that's what that model is. So that's always really helpful. What about you, Caroline?
So I thought it was great because it put a lot of structure around the kind of bits and pieces that I know about change, so that it's more repeatable. But it wasn't just models, it was how do we apply it? How do we use real life examples to bring that to life, really? So it was great.
I really like that idea of that. There's something about the need for repeatable, consistent. We can't standardize something that is all about people's feelings. But what we can do is bring a consistency and a regularity and a certainty to what we're going to be asking people to do and what we ourselves do, because there are so many changes we're involved in. If we can apply it sort of similarly each time, there's some kind of structure each time, I think it just makes our jobs so much easier. So I'm really glad you raised that one. Yeah. What about you, Amandeep?
So for me, I guess reiterating what Rhys has said, as somebody who's not got any change experience, sort of, we don't have change managers or anything like that. For me, this has been really interesting, not just from yourself, but from everybody else on the course, and leaning on the experience and the words of wisdom that I'm hearing across the room. That for me, I think, is probably more, because that's real practical experience, isn't it, that everybody's had. And I think that's certainly something I can build on as I try and introduce this into my organisation.
I think we get that out of the breakout rooms. You get to hear each other discussing discussing things, when we all come back together and discuss things. And whilst I might be giving some practical application, hearing it time and time again in different ways from different people also sends a message about, hey, I'm not alone. This is actually quite a common issue. And that's quite reassuring sometimes as well, because we don't want to be alone.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Thank you. What about you, Trevor?
Yeah, I mean, I'm from no change background at all. I'm a freelancer. I've not even been involved in large organisations before, so it's been a very steep learning curve. And I have to say, the first step is like, whoa, there's a lot going on here, a lot to digest, and all these models and things. But you've done it incredibly well. And after day one, I felt okay, and I felt up to speed. And the support from the rest of the team has been brilliant as well, and very supportive. So it's been great. And I think I've definitely, although I don't quite know how I'm going to, because I've got nowhere to go now, as in I'm not going to my job to carry this out. I do feel that my dream is to be like a consultant on this sort of thing, and I think I'm definitely empowered enough to. When I was going through the examples, I could picture, right, if I was in this situation, what I would do now. So it's been very good, and I think your extra little slides over and above what's in the book were really valuable, as well as all your stories. So it's been great. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. With all your entrepreneurial experience, marrying that with all of this, companies will be lucky to get you. So thank you for that.